Welcome to Storylab. So today is currently April 9th, and well, this past weekend will go down in hip-hop history. To be honest, I am still shook. But as I lament, the thought occurred to me, how will I tell my children of what happened this weekend, of what happened that night, what happened in the days to follow, how the mighty had fallen? And well, I decided that it would go something like this. Gather around, children. Gather around, children. Father has a story to tell you. Have I ever told you about the night that rap changed forever? And then, my children who have heard the story before, they'd be like, which night, Dad? And I quickly hushed them. That night, March 22nd. Oh, it was such an incredible night in the rap lands. Now, of course, because they're children, I have to dress this up. There has to be aristocratic titles. It has to feel larger than life, or set in a context that they will already be very familiar with my introduction of Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and so on and so forth. Anyways, medieval times, aristocratic titles. Let's go. March 22nd was a fateful night in the rap lands. There was just anticipation that hung in the air. You see, the rap lands wasn't a very large place. There were several individuals vying for their own fiefdoms with their compositions and skill. This night, March 22nd, several lands were celebrating new compositions. One of the larger territories in particular had one of the more boisterous celebrations. Lord Hendrix, you've heard of him, along with Baron Boomin, celebrated the release of their newest joint compositions. It was titled, We Don't Trust You. It was a great night throughout the lands of Hendrix and Boomin. That was until screams tore through the night. The lantern of every home was relit. Riders rode through the alleys and roads connecting one territory to another, yelling to anyone who could hear them. Duke Lamar has declared war. You see, one of the compositions of Lord Hendrix and Baron Boomin contained the Duke's declaration specifically against the houses of Aubrey and Germain. These were great houses in the rap lands. Some would even say that between Duke Lamar and Sir Germain and Lord Aubrey, that their houses were the three largest. And this was no subtle declaration. The Duke wanted all the smoke. His declaration threw into question the validity of Aubrey and Germain's estates and their allusion to shared kingship over the Raplands. This was a very serious allegation, considering their joint trade venture bore the fruit of the wildly popular composition, First-Person Shooter. As you can imagine, this sent the Raplands into an uproar. Not a person in the lands slept that eve. Many, after hearing the composition, made travel arrangements. They were at the gates of Lord Aubrey and Sir Germain's estates in a matter of days, demanding that they refute Duke Lamar or concede to his declaration through their silence. By this time, of course, word had already reached the Great Lords. Lord Aubrey was on tour around his land, sharing the best of his compositions with his citizenry. When word reached him, he began to burn in effigy fellow heads of state, comrades, you would say, that had abandoned him in the wake of Duke Lamar's declaration. It was truly an eventful evening. Lord Aubrey declared, not in composition, but in administration, if you will, his acceptance of the Duke's declaration, stating that his stature is upright and he would not be bullied. He also issued several pictorial bulletins, seemingly conveying his desire for battle, and, well, the lack of judicious thinking on the part of Duke Lamar. By the way, several days after Duke Lamar's declaration, the lack of proper compositional response from Lord Aubrey or Sir Germain had sent the lands into preemptively declaring Duke Lamar as King Kendrick. This was huge. However, this would not become less of a speculation and more of a certainty until Sir Germain had responded. But before I get there, I have to share that behind the scenes, it was rumored that Lord Hendrix was dismayed with Lord Aubrey far in advance of the release of this new composition over a maiden. That this is what led to his joint campaign with Baron Boomin and then joining in arms with Duke Lamar to take on the houses of Aubrey and Germain. Now, this detail was quickly overshadowed by the lack of proper response from Lord Aubrey, but it did raise the question to some of what the intentions of the maiden were. Not many know this, but these maidens wield much power as they only move in the atmosphere of heads of states and those with proper titles. Some speculate that they have a coalition that moves under the cover of secrecy to shape the Raplands, either to their own ends or to the ends of another. Now, make no mistake, it does not take much for war in the Raplands to occur. But on this scale, more often than not, as with all things, it begins with matters of the heart. But even if that was a catalyst for Lord Hendrix to draw arms against Lord Aubrey, Duke Lamar's motivations were much more clear. Evisceration of Lord Aubrey and Sir Germain to the end of his ascent to kingship. Now, Sir Germain responds. He drafts a composition. It was said that he didn't care much for the amount of time spent on the composition. When it was shared through the Raplands, a new debate arose. The lines between the territories of Sir Germain and Duke Lamar grew precipitously sharp. Though Sir Germain's composition lacked the venom and vitriol to meet the flagrancy of Duke Lamar's first bout, he besmirched the legacy of Duke Lamar and the compositions that had led to his current title. He also commented on the height of Duke Lamar, since Sir Germain himself is quite a bit taller. Armed with this information, Sir Germain's citizens took to the streets to defend their noble lord. And defend they did. At the risk of great personal and professional humiliation, they defended Sir Germain's reply. Then, at the great arcade held in Sir Germain's honor, along with his compatriots, his citizenry cheered on as their lord performed his compositions. They danced and recited lines they had committed to memory. It was a joyous occasion. It was a moment when the land was at rest. It was like they were healing, even though the air of war brewing from the west was still lingering around them. Many armed and ready at a moment's notice to march on their lord's command. Waited with bated breath for the moment Sir Germain would unleash his composition. They craved to scream into the night sky the mediocrity of Duke Lamar's compositional gamut. To be the henchman that would squeeze and watch life drain from the Duke's defenses. And at that moment, when they most expected it, all the lanterns were turned low. The stars became more visible in the night sky. A single light was focused on the arena stage, and out walked Sir Germain. Gasp immediately erupted from the crowd gathered. Murmurs sounded like a million whispers hovering over the crowd. Sir Germain carried in his hand the most abominable thing one could conceive in the Raplands. A wail went out. The cry tore through the night like lightning at the sight of a white flag. Children, father needs a moment. And I would end it right there because that's as much as I've gotten so far. But yeah, that's what happened in the Raplands this past weekend. It was not only an extremely exciting affair, it was also a grievous one, and one that the citizens of the lands of Cole belonging to Sir Germain are dealing with. We're reeling from these actions. We will remain faithful, at least there will be some of us. But if you like that, feel free to like, subscribe, enable notifications to hear the continuing story of rap lords? What happens after the fact? Will there be a revision in history? Will I change things? Who knows? But you will once you're subscribed and the video comes out. Until then, take care.